not be able to vote on anything until we get a quorum. So we will hear from everybody. And first up, I believe we have a speaker card, Mr. Peter Bennett. You have 3 minutes.
I was going to run you a PowerPoint, but just ran out of time to finish it. Thank you for letting me speak. My name is Pete Bennett. My Twitter account, which I hope that you begin to look at very seriously, is Peter C. Bennett. It's about the lives of the citizens. It's about a story of a truck exploding on the freeway. I can't read the cities from here, but can you help me out? Because I don't recognize all the names. I have, Orinda? And where? Oh, okay. Well, listen, I chewed up a little time, but Oakley is where my friend Cynthia Kemp was found 30 years ago. All right? Pittsburgh is where my cabinet shop was robbed and burglarized, and I lost millions of dollars, and it ended with shootings in my cabinet shop. San Ramon is where Officer Lombardi, who went to federal prison, who held a gun to my head, where the brother of John, or Eric Nunn, was a police officer in San Ramon. I know a lot about the CNET story because my vehicle exploded on 680. I'm an arson victim, not once. I had arson in Pittsburgh. I had arsons in Danville. And go look up Molina Court, Lorene Nettles. And I knew Pat Perry. And I'm growing really tired of coming to public hearings because I have a $500,000 loss tied to Moraga. I don't even waste my time filing a police report. At this point in my life, I have over 100. I've been mugged in Oroville, beaten in Danville, arrested in Danville, had my property seized. I'm speaking at these public meetings because I get a great opportunity to utilize this. And I'm going to prove to you that it's a big problem. And I have a lot of trouble with the unions because I noticed one thing in my problem is that I need to get a police report and they won't give it to me. I have one outstanding from when I owned a computer store 30 years ago down the street. And a man with a gun ended it. I lost my cabinet shop when I got shot at by people that I suspected were connected. One of my witnesses in a case from 1989 that's tied to my cabinet shop on Bliss Avenue was murdered in Concord. And that's Mark Kuhn, who was working on that. And Mark ended up dead. I've had my attorneys beaten right down the street. I've had them mugged. I've had their in-laws murdered in Orinda. Nate Greenan, who ran off and flipped over on the road on Camino Pablo, could be my stepson. I know Sarah Hoda, killed in the fire, plus a few other of those musicians over in Oakland. I got people being pushed down elevator shafts. This is my story, and part of it's unions. And if you want to spend the money on the ground here, you want to do the infrastructure that you're asking for, I've been on the phone. I was talking to Senator Sessions' office for 2 years. They know what's going on. You're not going to get your transportation funds unless you clean up your act with the unions. You're going to have a problem because of my story.
Time,
at a federal
sir.
level. I grew up just a few blocks away from Donald Trump's family.
Time.
Thank you. I get 3 minutes to tell you how my friends are getting killed. I'm grateful for the 3 minutes.
You're welcome.
It'd be nice if a real investigator would come talk to me. Who pays for this food? The citizens? He told me I couldn't have lunch. So I'll go down the street after all my money's been stolen and eat out of the garbage can, because that's what it's been like.
Okay, moving on to, excuse me, approval of the summary of actions. Do we have a motion for approval?
We'll have to skip that. Oh, wait a minute.
Oh, that's right. Well, we have a quorum now.
Roseanne, here we have a forum.
Okay.
Sorry, traffic was perfectly terrible on Trade.
We believe you.
That's okay. Do I have a motion?
I'll move approval.
We have
Second.
a movement and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? No abstentions?
One abstain.
One abstention. Okay. That's all right. I'm having trouble talking anyways. General business. If you could all review the attendance log, make sure it's correct, and the calendar, and make sure everything on the CAC roster is up to snuff. We'll give a minute for that. If there are any corrections that need to be done, could you please let Fifi know? And we shall move on to the review of the City of Oakley's Growth Management Program Compliance Checklist. And we have here Mr. Kevin Rohani to talk about it and answer any questions. Kevin?
Mr. Chair, members of the committee, we have prepared the checklist, growth management plan checklist in coordination with all of our staff, which is presented to you. I'll be happy to answer any specific questions you might have.
Well, you're no fun. That's too easy. So I have a couple of questions for Kevin. I had asked him earlier about this. There's a section of Main Street that has been without a sidewalk and without a bike lane on one side. And there have been community questions asked, when is that going to be fixed?
And that the section that you allude to is the section west of Vintage Parkway on Main Street, from Vintage Parkway to Gardenia Drive, kind of the older part of the downtown. We are in the process of revitalizing the entire downtown Oakley. It's been an ongoing process for about 3 years. We've been in the design development of it. Project was designed, and actually next Tuesday, council is going to award the construction contract to do the improvement, and the remainder of this year will be initiating the construction. That would build new curb gutter, sidewalks, streetscape areas east of Vintage Parkway to the specific section that the chair mentioned. That is the second phase of the downtown that would be improving, putting curb gutter, sidewalk, bike lane, and streetscape from Vintage Parkway to Gardenia. That's a future phase to be done, but it is on our plans as a part of our master plan for downtown.
Any other questions? I have another one. On page 2.1-11, down at the bottom of the page, the paragraph, I was looking at the GPA approved by Resolution 126-16, changed the general plan land use designation of a 25-acre lot located within the Emerson Ranch subdivision at the northwest corner of Sellers and East Cypress from commercial to multifamily low. What's that going to be? Is there a project going in there? Is that going to be apartments or what?
No, it is going to be single-family homes, not as large of a lot and not as large of a footprint for the homes. The intersection of Sellers and Cypress that you mentioned, initially that was scheduled as a commercial site. As we worked with the project developer, they felt it's too big of a site for a commercial development at that area, and they could not find the customers and the businesses to come and set up shop there. So they proposed reducing that parcel. It's been converted to smaller homes, and there still will be a commercial component, but it's not as big as what it used to be.
With that in mind, there still are a lot of questions and complaints about the intersection in front of City Hall and Main Street. Has that flow rate for traffic been increased since prior to the rebuilding of that whole area, or has it been reduced?
Based on the data that we have, and that is one of our major thoroughfare in Oakley. Some times ago, that used to be old Highway 4. Now it's downtown, and with the construction of the bypass on Highway 4, a lot of the traffic has been diverted. That section, for instance, several years ago, there used to be the trucks would go through it, which would create a lot of complication. We've changed our truck routes in Oakley to get around the whole downtown. So our trucks basically use Laurel Road, which is our direct connector to Highway 4, our major arterial in the community, carries, tens of thousands of vehicles. However, in addressing the point you mentioned, the traffic flow at the intersection of Vintage Parkway and Main Street in the core downtown, last year we were able to secure a grant from MTC to synchronizing our traffic signals. So right now we have 2 traffic signals, one at Main and O'Hara and one at Main and Vintage Parkway, which are connected, hardwired, and synchronized. As a part of the project that I mentioned, which will be awarded next Tuesday night by the council, we will be constructing another signal at the intersection of Main and Norcross. All these signals are going to be timed and synchronized, and it is our full expectation that will facilitate the flow of traffic throughout our town. Certainly, the goal has always been that to create a pedestrian-friendly downtown. It's not just a major highway that people zip through. So there's been some transition, people getting used to the kind of the operational level of what this downtown is supposed to look like. So in coordination with that, we're taking proactive measures in synchronizing our signal timing to make sure that flows better, basically a platoon of vehicles going through downtown without having to stop at each of the intersection. And we keep monitoring. This is a kind of a real-time situation. As time change, as the traffic flows change, we keep monitoring. That's certainly one of our feature streets in Oakley, and we want to make sure it flows as best as it can.
So one of the, with all the people moving out there and the expected growth of the eastern portions, those open lands near Sellers and Cypress, are there any plans to widen Cypress and a connector to Laurel? I've heard rumors of eminent domain of some properties to widen Laurel.
East Cypress Road, which is essentially the major growth in Oakley, there's going to be several thousand homes into the future years. They've started the construction right now, and it's going to ongoing from a kind of a 2-lane country road that is going to be converted to a 4- and 6-lane full-fledged city standard roadway. And actually, some parts of it has already been done as a part of the Emerson Ranch project, as the chair mentioned. But the traffic from East Cypress goes through Main Street and at Laurel Road, which goes westward toward out of town, essentially to Highway 4. You mentioned that you had heard rumors of an eminent domain. We work with all of the properties. We have no intention of using eminent domain. I think our approach is collaborating and discussing with the property owners the merits of the roadway improvements to their properties. We just, on that point, about 2 weeks ago, we acquired the right-of-way needed for widening of Laurel Road. This is the section between Rose Avenue and Mellowwood. Again, that's a very kind of bottleneck in Laurel Road. So that's being done. We have a number of developments on either side of Laurel Road that, as a part of their projects, they would be dedicating right-of-way and widening the roadway. So that is, we are actively working on improving Laurel Road. We know that's the major thoroughfare out of town and needs to flow well to carry a bulk of the traffic. So that is amongst our feature projects this year, construction, and next year.
I understand the motivation returning now to the area of City Hall in downtown of wanting to make the area more pedestrian friendly. As you extend out your work in that area, I guess your phase 2 is going to be adjacent to what exists. Are you going to continue to narrow the Main Street down to 2 lanes from 4?
Main Street in the downtown core has always been a 2-lane. There's been points brought up in the past that this used to be a 4-lane. Everything that we have seen, and we've kind of went back a number of years, that's always been a 2-lane. Now, what's happening today, there's a section of Main Street in downtown Oakley between Norcross and 2nd Street. That's kind of the old downtown, or old roadway, call it what you want. Essentially, it's a 2-lane roadway, has no infrastructure, rough roadway. Again, people park every which way, no median, nothing. It's just a country road. The improvements which we'll be implementing would install curb gutter, sidewalk, bulb outs, proper crossings, traffic signal, safe lighted crosswalk to cross the street near the 2nd Street component, and on-street parking, very defined, very structured, instead of kind of the haphazard, for the lack of a better word, what's out there. So again, that section, our understanding, has always been 2-lane, and we haven't changed the dynamics of it. Some parts of it, the only part of Main Street which is 4-lane is from Empire going westward all the way to Highway 160.
Are there any other questions? Well, I got to tell you, we moved to Oakley because of the city government, and I'm very proud to be from there right now. I really enjoy it. I like seeing the improvements that are being done. There's always some contentious issues, but I think they're doing a fine job. Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Well, does anybody move? I move that we.
That's your prerogative.
That's mine, right? Yep. City of Oakley.
I'll second.
I move that we approve the compliance checklist for Oakley. And we had a second?
From neighboring Brentwood.
Yeah.
Very appropriate.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstentions? So passed. Okay. Now, let's move on to the next issue. What do we got? Yeah, update on the I-680 Express Lane project.
Don't you want to hear this? This is fascinating. Do I, Okay. Good evening, Citizens Advisory Committee. Thank you very much for inviting me to come talk to you tonight about the I-680 Contra Costa Express Lanes. I appreciate your time. My name is Barbara Lorenzen, and I work for the Metropolitan Transportation Commission. We, as you probably know, are the Metropolitan Planning Organization, and we serve all 9 Bay Area counties. If you don't mind, we'll hold questions to the end because I might address what your question is as I move through the presentation. So it's behind you, though. Oh, okay. Of course, your place is more sophisticated than that. This is a diagram of the lanes on 680 that our MTC is converting from HOV to express lanes. They are slated to open this summer, 2017, and they run between Walnut Creek and San Ramon, starting at Rudgear in the north, going south to Al Costa, and then from Al Costa to Livorno in the northbound direction. And they will be joining a growing network of what we're calling Bay Area Express Lanes. Probably many of you are familiar with express lanes, having driven them elsewhere. But just so we're all on the same page, what an express lane is, it continues to be free for high occupancy vehicles, being carpools, van pools, transit vehicles, eligible clean air vehicles, and motorcycles, and also offers solo drivers the choice to pay a toll to use the lanes. The lanes are priced dynamically, so the price to use it increases as traffic increases and decreases as traffic decreases. When and all the tolling is electronic, so there's no toll booths. When the lanes open on 680, they will be open access, meaning that you can get in and out of the lane anywhere, just like you do the current HOV lane. Why is MTC doing this? Well, we want to continue to encourage carpools, van pools, and express buses, so that's why it continues to be free for HOVs. As you all know, traffic is increasing everywhere in the Bay Area, so we are looking for all strategies to get more efficiency out of our existing network. As I think you all are well aware, Bay Area feelings as well as finances are such that we just don't have a lot of revenue to expand the network. So we're looking for all strategies that we can do to better use the capacity that we have. And this is one of those strategies, and also to offer a choice to solo drivers to use a lane that they currently cannot use. And to improve a key is to improve reliability. And what we mean by that is, we've all experienced that some days you leave and it takes an hour to get from point A to point B, and some days it takes 2 hours. Whereas with a managed lane, with the dynamic pricing, maybe the overall time savings, depending on when you're going, won't be that dramatically different, but you have more a sense of reliability. You'll probably know that instead of an hour to 2 hours, you're pretty consistent at 55 minutes to get to where you want to go. So we're selling that reliability. Like I said, these lanes are joining a growing network of express lanes in the Bay Area. They join existing lanes on I-580, on 680 in Alameda County, starting in Sonoma and going down to San Jose, and then on 237 in San Jose. Ultimately, the Bay Area is authorized to build a network of 550 miles of express lanes. The first projects are to convert existing HOV lanes and then to try and fill gaps in the HOV system to encourage more carpooling and express buses. If we had a seamless network of HOV lanes, it could much more encourage carpooling, because it is the time savings associated with it. As we all know, carpooling is not exactly everyone's first choice, so we want to do what we could do to improve its attractiveness. The system is being planned, built, and will be operated by several agencies. It's a big cooperative effort. CCTA is one of the planning and building agencies, and the agencies that ultimately operate the lanes are us, MTC, the Valley Transportation Authority, and the Alameda CTC. That was the vision for the overall network, and now let's focus on the 680 corridor in Contra Costa. The lane that we're going to open this summer is the first in a series of corridor projects. The second is the southbound lanes on 680 from the Benicia Bridge down to where our lane will start at Red Gear. And there'll be a gap filling effort to close the gap in the HOV lane from north of 24 down to Red Gear, and then converting the entire stretch from HOV to express lanes. Construction for that will start sometime in 2018, and it's planned, the current opening date is 2020. So that will provide a very long stretch of HOV/express lanes in the southbound direction. In the northbound direction, north of Livorno, where our lane ends, the next project would be to fill a gap in the HOV lane from 24 south to North Main, and then to convert that whole stretch to express lane. That, as you probably can tell, still leaves a gap through the 24 exchange going northbound. And CCTA and MTC are looking together at different kind of operational improvements in there, such as ways to change the weaving that's occurring, and looking at like hard shoulder running of express buses and things like that. So those are longer term strategies that are just being considered. One thing to stress is that, you know, the current opening project that will be opening it is the first of several projects that are planned for the corridor. And when we look at, you know, why we're doing this and the long-term benefits, we kind of have to take the whole package together to see where, you know, why we're doing this. I also wanted to mention that I said that when the lane south of Walnut Creek opens, it's going to be open access and you can get in and out just like you do with the HOV lane. Once the blue section there opens, there will be a buffer. And so we're at the northern end of our southbound lane, and that buffer to protect, to keep the lanes moving consistently through the 24 interchange, that buffer will start around North Bain and go down to Stone Valley. So that will be a change so our lane will open under one set of operating conditions, and ultimately in a couple of years will change. One of the important things that we need to let the public know is that all cars in the express lanes are going to need a fast track toll tag or fast track account. So if you're driving alone, you can use either a standard fast track tag or a fast track flex tag, and you set it in the one position. So this is a fast track flex tag. It has 3 positions, 1, 2, and 3, but you get 3 beeps if you set it in 3. If you're a toll exempt vehicle, you must have a fast track tag in order to go toll free. Otherwise, you'll either be charged or you'll get pulled over. So that is a big change for carpoolers who, just get in the lane and go now. So suspicion is that many already have fast track accounts, and they'll just have to make sure they add a fast track flex tag. So we'll be doing a big outreach. You may have already seen some of that effort when 580 opened to get messages out about getting fast track flex tags. But people can get fast track flex tags. The most convenient way is online at bayareexpresslanes.org, through the phone. The retail stores are Walgreens, Safeway, and Costco that all carry regular fast track tags. And the flex tags, this map is showing where we know that flex tags are available in Contra Costa County. We are currently calling the Walgreens and Safeways in the 24 corridor to see if they're stocking them. We're not sure. We have agreements with Walgreens and Safeway to do it, but we don't ultimately control where they stock them. People can come in person to the Fast Track Customer Service Center, which is in San Francisco at the MTC offices. We get a lot of questions about, well, I have a standard tag, how do I exchange it for a regular tag? So one thing we're telling people is with any account, you can have up to 4, you can have as many tags as you want on an account, but for the same deposit, you can have up to 4 tags, so you don't need to necessarily put more money in your account to get a flex tag. So if you just if you just wanted to keep an extra one for an extra car, you don't have to return it. But they all have return postage guaranteed, and you can just put this in any mailbox and it'll get back to MTC. When you open a new account, you have put a $25 deposit down, and that deposit is your bank to pay tolls to start out with. An advantage of the express lanes is the enforcement mechanisms. You probably have heard or know that carpool cheating it occurs on 680. So with tolls now, those people that are cheating in the carpool lanes, they will either have to pay a toll, or hopefully they have a much higher likelihood of getting caught for cheating in the carpool lane. So to ensure that people are paying their tolls, there's the automated system. So it's just like on Bay Area bridges. Your fast track tag is red and you are issued a toll. So we hope, and then if you, just like on Bay Area bridges, as most people are aware, if you don't have a toll tag but you have a fast track account, there's license plate capture. However, we are very much encouraging people to have the tag and have it properly mounted in their car because it will reduce errors. Things like license plate frames cause issues with the cameras. Also, on an express lane, you're moving at hopefully a decent clip, so they'll be taking a lot of images. So we're really encouraging people to have the tags and put them in their windows. If you don't get, and then also, we want to make sure that people are using these lanes properly. So the violations are the same as on the bridges. First time violation is $25 plus the cost of the toll. Second if you don't pay it, and it accrues, and it goes up to $70 plus the cost of the toll. Then there's also manual enforcement. One of the key uses of the revenue that we get from the tolls is to pay for additional CHP enforcement in the lanes. Also, as we built the lanes, there's now 2 locations in the lane for the CHP to hang out. And so the Fast Track Flex Tag, when it's in the 2 or 3 position, as you go under the tolling gantries, there's beacons. The beacons light up, which alerts the CHP that, that car should be that should be a toll-free car. Gives them a little more heads up to check it out. Does it have the right amount of passengers? And then they can pursue the car and pull them over as needed. And also to prevent a solo driver from just taking because the solo driver could certainly put this tag in their window and put it on 3, and then the CHP pulls you over and you switch it back to 1. The officers have the capability, they'll have a handheld device in their car that they can actually access the system and see the last what the toll readers read for that particular tag. So we hope that will reduce the violations of carpools in the lanes, which we hope will make carpoolers feel a lot better, as well as most traveling members of the public. This is the pricing sign example. This is what it's going to look like. So the tolls will change every few minutes based on traffic. Drivers are guaranteed the toll they see when they enter the lane. And the toll at the top is the toll for that zone you're in, and the toll on the bottom is the toll to the end of the express lane. So meaning what it means by you're guaranteed is if, say, I get in at Red Gear and go the whole length down to Crow Canyon, which is the end of the first zone, and it says $1, but by the time I get to, say, Diablo, the sign is reading $1.25. I'm guaranteed $1 because I got in when it was $1. And if I stay in all the way to the end down to Al Costa, and it might increase from, say, $3 to $5 in the course of that time, you still pay the toll you saw when you originally went in the lane. There's 4 toll zones, 2 in each direction. Crow Canyon is the dividing line. So it's Red Gear to Crow Canyon is the first toll zone in the southbound direction, and then Crow Canyon to Al Costa. Heading north, it's Al Costa up to Crow Canyon, and then Crow Canyon to Livorno. I do want to talk about, I think, living in Contra Costa, you've probably driven 680 recently, maybe even in the PM in the northbound direction, and perhaps wanted to put a gun to your head, as did I. Fortunately, I don't have to drive it that often. One of the things about this project is that it is the first of several in the corridor, and it is not going to be a magic bullet and solve traffic problems. And we want people to know that, and we think that people understand that because they drive the lanes. They see that the carpool lanes are crowded and there's not a ton of capacity to sell, especially very much so in the peak of the peak. There is capacity to sell in the shoulders of the peak, as shown in this photo here. So a couple things is that, we want to maximize it all the time. So the shoulders of the peak, there's opportunities to maximize it. We also know that just getting the carpool cheats out of the lane, at least, even if the flow doesn't change, at least the people that are in that lane are paying something for that a little bit quicker trip, because it still is quicker in the HOV lane. Also, when the northbound project opens and that the HOV lane is extended south of 242, that will help some of the bottleneck that's north of the lane that's causing some of the backup all the way down. We did a survey of commuters in the 680 corridor, and people do understand that. We heard that 45% think that it will not improve their commute. 38% think it will, which is good. 64% agree the lanes will not reduce congestion. So that's kind of a mixed. Yes, the purpose is to reduce congestion. It depends when you drive them. You might not have that experience. But lots of times in the day you will. Still, about over half of the people who were driving alone who responded to the survey, they do anticipate that they would use the lanes from time to time. Our public outreach plans for opening, we will, like in the picture on the bottom, like Alameda CTC did when they opened their lane in Alameda County in 2010, we'll have some sign wraps in the corridor. All of our outreach, we're really going to wait till about 2 months before the lanes open, because we found from other experiences that people just don't really pay attention until the last minute. So we're going to wait, not the last minute, but about 2 months before is when we'll start really getting information out. We also, one of the things we don't want to do is put out the message that, the lanes open X, and then find out that there's some toll testing that takes place that ends perhaps 2 months right before the lanes open. And then if that doesn't go well, it pushes out the date further. So we want to make sure that we're teed up to not having to change the message. So these signs on the corridor will go up 2 months prior to opening, and with messages about getting Fast Track Flex and also where to go for more information. Information is on 511.org at expresslanes.511.org. Through the Fast Track and 511 and other MTC social media, we will get information out. A big way to get information out is through our network and our relationships with the cities. We have a monthly information that we send out. We've asked the cities to push that out further, and we're going to do a little more aggressive talking to all of them about how they can then send it further to their communities. We'll do some purchase social media, like on Facebook and on Nextdoor. MTC, we cannot get our own Nextdoor account, but we can do purchased Nextdoor. And as focus group of one, if I look at all my Contra Costa neighbors, that is something that I know a lot of people read. We'll do traffic radio sponsorships, and then some limited outdoor advertising. We might do some advertising on the County Connection buses as well, because they'll be driving right in the corridor, as well as maybe some pump toppers at gas stations in the corridor. And then finally, I wanted to talk a little bit even bigger picture. So I talked about the 550 miles of authorized express lanes, but even beyond that, MTC is planning, okay, so now what's our next step? It's after that. And so we have an effort called the Managed Lanes Implementation Plan. Like, what can we do? What other planning steps do we need to do to implement additional managed lanes? And the goals of this program are, we want to improve reliability and address the degradation in the HOV lanes. Throughout the region, many of the HOV lanes are not traveling as fast as we would like them. So looking at strategies to improve violations and enforcement. As we know, there's a lot of clean air vehicles in the lanes, and those are very good goals, but also for mobility. What is our region's values? Do we want to try and get more people in fewer cars? We also have to consider, what's going to be happening in 5 to 10 years as automated vehicles come into the fleet. What tools do we have in our basket so that, we're not just racking up more VMT because it's so convenient to sit in your car and not drive and instead play on your phone. Like, what can we do to make sure that we aren't adding miles, but we're putting more people in all those cars? And tolling strategies are certainly one tool. We want to improve consistency. There's different rules for HOV lanes in terms of hours of operation or numbers of required people in the cars, and then ultimately increase person throughput by expanding the network and filling the gaps in the network. So also with, and this is a map that the Managed Lanes Implementation Plan is looking at about where the degradation is in the region in the HOV lanes. And you can see in 680, I think this data is from 2014, so you can probably assume it's a little bit worse, but it's the speeds of the vehicles in the HOV lane. You can see especially in the northbound direction at the end of the current lane, it's got degradation about 50% of the time. So that is, that's my information. If you feel free to follow up with any questions, or if you know of groups in your community that might be interested in hearing our dog and pony show and learning more about the lanes, we're very happy to get out as much as we can and talk to communities about the project. And I'd open it for questions.
Thank you for your presentation. I'm just curious, what's the expected income from this?
We don't have a revenue projection, and it's because it's very unpredictable. As we've learned from other lanes that have opened in the country, it's very, very unpredictable. So we don't have a revenue projection. The revenues from the tolls will first be used for the operations and maintenance of the lanes. So that includes additional CHP enforcement, all the maintenance of the infrastructure to collect the tolls, the processing of the tolls, and then to just keep maintenance of the lanes. Because one of the we've used taxpayer money to build the lanes, but we are in deficit spending with just trying to maintain what we have.
I have other questions, but
Sure.
it would turn into a conversation. I don't want to do that. And I would like to invite you guys to come out to Antioch and do a presentation
Okay.
because quite a few of our citizens do utilize that particular area.
Head down that way.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hello, Barbara. I have a question about the variable tolls. What are the extremes? What's the lowest? What's the highest?
The lowest is going to be probably about 50 cents. The highest, one thing I did not mention and I should have, that will be a change, is that the lanes are going to operate from 5 a.m. to 8 p.m. So that is current, it's more than just the carpool hours. So there will be tolls midday, and they will fall to as low as they can go, which is about 50 cents. We're saying 50 cents. MTC does not have a maximum toll. Drivers will get to decide if the price is worth it. We believe that will be self-regulating at a certain, at a certain point. The traffic will get to, people are going to say, I am not going to pay that much to be in that lane. But we do not have a maximum toll.
How are you establishing the algorithms to make those changes? I mean, is it's something that's going to be dynamic, but
Exactly.
this is an automated change? Who did the algorithms? Who established that? And how was it done?
I don't have the answer to that. TransCore is our contractor who has implemented many toll systems throughout the country. So it is their algorithm. I do not have the inside of the black box of what the algorithm is.
Do you know how they're being audited, or if they are?
So the BATA, the Bay Area Toll Authority, will be the agency that collects and processes all the tolls. There's tests in, so that's exactly what we're testing right now, is the algorithm and the trip building, as cars pass under the readers, to ensure that the tags will be read correctly, and that, like, if assumptions are made about if a car was here and a car was here, to make sure that all the logic is working properly. And then there is oversight and testing throughout the process once the system's up and running, and there's TransCore staff that will be part of the project continuing after the lanes open, and then BATA staff who run the fast track system. I can get you more information specifically on the auditing. I don't know.
It
all
would
the
be good to
details.
know if there's a billing process and I want to say a bill, but how can the customer challenge a bill or a fee that he doesn't believe or he or she does not believe is fair?
I was just also going to say, we will have monthly reports to our board that will talk about the amount of revenue that have been received. So that'll be some tracking of, not necessarily auditing, but just so the public is aware of what the tolls are and what they're bringing in. How a customer would challenge is the same way they would challenge a bridge toll that you can do now. You can call the customer service center and say, I was unfairly charged. Always on the first call, you get a pass. It's once you start to see some routine behavior that it's not dismissed. Fast Track has been around for quite a while, and they're used to dealing with managing how to.
So currently, I own an electric vehicle, and somebody was telling me that the HOV little white label expires after 2018. Is that correct?
I don't know when they all expire. The governor has been extending a lot of them. Like I said, there is pressure to perhaps not, because we're finding that in some, especially in the South Bay, in the Bay Area, 20% of the traffic in the HOV lanes is clean air vehicles. And as we know, they're becoming more and more popular. They're becoming more and more affordable. At a certain point, we all can't be in that lane. And at what point, and it also, like, in terms of tax revenue, yes, clean air goals are incredibly important, but we also have to be looking at mobility goals. And I'm not, this is a statewide issue. This is a regional issue. And it's becoming more and more higher on people's, like, radar screens that, is how much incentive is still needed to encourage the purchase of clean air vehicles, or how much are they just going to be part of the fleet already anyway? So I can't tell you what the governor's thinking.
Especially since they're not paying the gas tax equivalent.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's my per mile tax.
Well, it's interesting, at one point you get a subsidy to buy your car. Maybe in like 5 years from now you'll get an extra tax to own the car. It's like,
Well, I couldn't afford the new one. I had to buy used, so I didn't get the subsidies. But it was cheap enough to where I didn't need it.
Right.
I had a question, and I lost it.
While you're thinking about it, may I? Okay.
I'm sorry, I didn't see
That's all right. Barbara, I'm still trying to wrap my head around the no maximum toll issue, and I think I'm beginning to understand it. If people are driving down the highway and they are thinking about moving into the express lane, but they see displayed that it's $8, is that what, it could be $10. And then they just make a decision themselves whether they want to move into the lane and pay that or stay where they are.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
And then so with diminishing traffic, then the $8 or $10 would
With falls.
reduce.
Right, because there's less
Okay.
of a need to get in that lane because there's less traffic. One of the things that we don't fully know is what the price tolerance of the Bay Area. We'll see.
Yeah, some people could say $25, that's nothing. Well worth it.
We hope not.
Mr. Chair, I have a question. Barbara, in deciding on the toll, will you be measuring the traffic in the mixed flow lanes, not just the carpool/express lane?
Yes, it's a combination measure of the
Okay.
two.
For these lanes, I'm curious, is the toll prorated? So if you get on like near the end of the last zone, you still have to pay the same price?
No, I did mean to say that you pay for the zone. If it's like, when you're on BART, it increases the more stops you go. It's not like that. It's like if you get in at Red Gear and get out, change your mind and get out at what's the next one? El Pintado or something. You would pay the same as if you'd gone all the way down to Crow Canyon.
Okay. And then a second question. So, fast track is required for all vehicles. So that means that, if you are in a electric vehicle and you don't have that fast track tag, you will get charged?
Correct.
Wow. Okay. So everyone must have to have.
attest to that, I did.
Yeah. See, that's one of the tricky parts. It's like I actually thought that you didn't need this if you were still HOV. Oh, wow.
I learned the hard way.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
That's a tough one. Yeah.
It's tough, but we hope that it will reduce carpool cheats, and we hope that the people that are legitimate carpoolers and legitimate clean air vehicles will appreciate that we're trying to get the cheaters out of their lane. So that's a key reason for the flex tags. It's all change is a little bit difficult, and it's just like anything, we're all so busy, we don't want anything extra on our plate, but we hope that the inconvenience of getting a tag isn't that horrible.
Will when we do go to the road use tax or a hybrid of a road use tax and a gas sales tax, will there be a change in this system to accommodate that so that you can, instead of having to pay for the whole distance, you'll be able to just pay for the distance traveled?
We haven't thought that far ahead yet.
Barbara, another question. Because you're going to have continuous in and out, at least initially, on the 680 lanes, have you evaluated how that's going to affect enforcement? Because theoretically, somebody could zip out when they see the CHP down the line a little bit and avoid being caught. When it's a buffered double white line, as they now are, if the CHP happens to see you cross those, it doesn't matter whether you get a toll tag or not. It's an automatic fine, and it's a significant fine. So have you evaluated what the continuous in and out might do to violation?
So if the CHP sees you in the lane, even if you move out, you can still do that currently in the HOV lane, and the CHP still has the right to chase you and get you because they observed you in that lane at that time, not as a carpool. We haven't evaluated it on the ability to improve enforcement. The continuous or non-continuous access is all based on how it helps the traffic flow, because we want to maximize the traveler's convenience to get in and out wherever they want, while also trying to keep the lanes flowing as smoothly as possible, because it's that weave back and forth that creates a lot of friction that really slows down the lanes.
Are there any other further questions? Blah, blah, blah.
Further beyond further.
No? Thank you very much.
All right, well, go out and spread the news. Advise your citizens.
Next
Thank
on
you
the
very much.
Thank you very much. Next on the agenda is reports. CCTA committee reports by CAC member, Administration and Projects Committee, APC. Do we have these?
Well, just, I do the one on. Well, I might explain that. There are two primary committees of the board that each meet monthly. You see their meetings on the calendar. Administration and Projects considers, what its title implies, the administrative functions and all project-related questions. And I believe, actually, I forget which committee gets the next shot at the checklist, but it's one of the two committees, and then it goes to the full board. And the Planning Committee handles all planning functions. And they actually get full agendas put out on the website like the full board. And in fact, much of the agenda material for the full board just refers back to the materials that were presented at the committees. The links link back to that. And that's probably why a good deal of the board's actions are done in consent calendar. You know, I finally started doing a selection of things on consent calendar. There's a lot more to consent calendar than what I put down. Anyway, it was a fairly short meeting, this last meeting. The major item was the candidate projects for submittal to MTC. They're considering putting on the ballot probably in 2018, but I'm not sure whether it would be June or November, Regional Measure 3, which would be a regional bridge toll increase somewhere in the neighborhood of $1, $2, or $3 per crossing. And they want a list of candidate projects, which we are providing them. The initial list did not include the $300 million for the additional BART cars. So that was the principal discussion at the board level, was to add that to the list. And again, it's, you know, like the sales tax, you know, be a list of projects that would be funded by this. I believe if I remember the figure rightly, every dollar toll increase is another $127 million annually in income. And of course, AB1 is currently under consideration in the legislature, the Transportation Funding and Reform Package. So the board was supporting that. And of course, if we're going to get additional state funding, and especially if there is another big bump up in federal infrastructure funding, the Port Authority is already working on the list of shovel-ready or near shovel-ready projects, and the top candidates in those projects are at the top of the list that's being submitted to MTC. But the biggies are, I remember, additional HOV lane projects, Phase 3 of the 680 Highway 4 interchange, which is another big one. And there was another large one, I forget what that was. The BART cars? Yeah, okay. So again, you know, we're all disappointed that the sales tax doubling sales tax increment did not pass. I have a feeling that they will try that again in 2018 because we'll be that much closer to expiration of Measure J. And we'll just have to see how people feel then. The only other thing I might just briefly mention, the chairmanship of the board has been a rotating process. It's rotated among the various sub-regions. And at the request, they've now added the Board of Supervisors to the rotation. The Board of Supervisors sends 2 supervisors as voting members of the board. So Tom Butt was selected as the chair for 2017, and Federal Glover was selected as the vice chair. And so he will probably move up to chair in 2018. So I'm open for any questions.
I have a question, Steve. I've seen on the TV that the state of California was considering or is throwing out there that the possibility of, instead of making a 2/3 majority to pass, the last one that we didn't get passed, that they're going to change that. They're trying to put a bill through Congress to make it only 55%. Is that anything that, we would have made it if it was 55% for
Yeah,
Measure X.
As I have heard that that's under consideration for transportation,
Yes.
and I think what that will take is, I believe, a 2/3 vote of the state legislature to put it on the ballot as a legislative constitutional amendment. But then I think to actually enact it is only a 50% plus one vote of the voters.
As long as it doesn't get stuck in suspension.
And I really wish they would consider that for my service on the fire board, consider that for public safety.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's under consideration right now. They do have a legislative supermajority, but of course, as is often the case, when you get such a dominance in one party, there is a spectrum of views within the party, so you can't always guarantee that you will get all of the votes for something, especially something involving fiscal matters.
I guess I would just, I like having the majority vote on things like that. But I mean, even considering that, I would like to see some kind of bill where more education would come out on these things. I look at the school systems, throughout our country, and a lot of the young people don't even know how their communities work. So, if you're raising uninformed young people, then, you're graduating uninformed adults. And a lot of the problems that we have like that, our country is based on, miseducation. And, when I hear things like, 50 plus 1, 55 plus 1, it's important to have certain things move forward. I understand that. But the reason people don't participate oftentimes is because they're just uneducated to facts, uneducated to how things operate. A lot of people don't feel included. And, I mean, I have to be honest. I think when I first joined this group, this board, this committee, that I admitted that since the time I've been on here, I know more about transportation than I ever have known about it. And I've worked for 3 railroads. So I think that when we educate young people, we motivate future leadership. And I think that we just have them informed and you buy into things. I bought into transportation as the result of being part of this board. And, I notice a lot of folks in Antioch are just not educated to a lot of public business. And they ought to be informed. I think we would have a much better operating city. And I'm speaking of Antioch because, they get all my taxes as a homeowner. So, I just wanted to get that in our minutes because that's how I feel. And I'm very strong about that.
Well, I'll tell you, the great majority of adults have no idea
That's right.
how government works. I mean, I've been running campaigns to try to get additional funding for the fire department, And people just make this assumption that it's all one big pot of money. And they have no idea about the complexity of public financing, or even the most basic of things, like you can't use capital funds to pay salaries. And we're doing all we can to make the information available. You know, Lindsay Willis did a hell of a job making information available. But we can't round the voters up and send them to re-education camps. You know, we make it available, but they're the ones that have to engage. And I really don't know what else we can do. Social media, the internet. I've seen the Transportation Authority use it very effectively. I've seen my own city use it very effectively. And there are always more and more ways to engage the public, but the public has to be willing to engage. And it's very frustrating trying to educate people.
The city of Concord had an experience during the downturn that was quite unusual. We were in desperate straits, although we had planned, we usually have a 15% cushion in our city budget. And we had almost used that all up. And so we were having to go to the public and ask them for an increase in sales tax. And the issue was handled very, very well. It passed by tremendous amount. And they had realized that the city had done their homework, that the police had taken a cut in pay, the people that work in the city had taken 20% cut in pay for a year, only worked 4 days a week. And they presented this out there to the public, and the public was very receptive. Okay, you know, we know that this is a last resort. And Measure Q, it's passed twice by the city because of the communication that they had with their residents. And I've been very proud of what they did. I was on the Measure Q committee, the first one, just to educate the community. And it's kind of hard. The county is kind of secondary. You're gonna do what you want to do for the city, but this county, you know, it's kind of out there, not that. And I don't know what we can do, because that's a whole other level of, because you just don't see them being passed. You just don't see the measures being passed around the county. How the cities are doing fine. And we got a 0.25%. We got a 0.25% in sales tax raise.
I wanted to just thank you for making my point when you said that there are a lot of uninformed adults. And that's exactly what I was talking about. If you raise uninformed kids, the result is uninformed adults. But having served as a city commissioner from San Francisco, which is a city and a county, I know how hard it is to communicate. But I also know that we have to find vehicles that reach people, and I'm convinced that, you know, a lot of us that are older, I guess I'm a senior citizen now, that we're kind of stuck in our ways, and that's why I think it's imperative that we use the vehicles that we have. And those vehicles are our social media. In fact, the presentation we just heard, the presentations we hear all the time, it's always social media. But our educational facilities, this is part of history. When we come up with new ideas for promoting transportation or moving people safely from one place to another place, they'll read about that in the history books, but they don't understand how it happened. You know, it's like watching a movie, but you don't know how the movie was made. You think it was just people got in front of a camera and they did what they do, and now they have a movie. It's a lot that go on, you know, and that's all I'm saying. I want our children to understand how transportation works, how it happened, what the rules are. In other words, not just being in front of the camera, but being behind the camera, writing the script, you know, doing those kind of things. Because what you do when you motivate them to do that, we inspire our children to be the next inventors of things, to use their imagination, to use the God-given talents that they have. You know, our grandbabies, our great-grandchildren. I have great-grandchildren, you know, that I think are, you know, are pretty bright. So that when I said that, it wasn't to challenge our system, because here at the Transportation Commission, I'm very proud to be part of this. But when I think about what's happening right now and the future, as a boy, I never thought I would see the things that I'm seeing. Driverless cars, you know, cars that can drive. The first time I sat in a car, I think I was in Walnut Creek in a Cadillac, and the guy got on the driver's side, and the car parked itself. And I had to contain myself with my excitement, but I went back and told everybody, you know. I've recently seen a car that actually flies. And the last time I saw that, I was a boy watching the Jetsons. So I'm inspired to think that motivation intrigues our youth and motivate them to think beyond where they are now. And they need to participate in our society, and hope that those kind of thoughts, those kind of things will help us deter crime and keep them busy enough so they're doing other things, using the God-given talents that they have to be a tax asset rather than a tax liability.
So, keeping that in mind, is it within the scope of this committee to be able to do a educational outreach to the school districts or the schools, and or some kind of public outreach for educational purposes?
I mean, we certainly don't limit your personal activities. The authority itself does have an outreach program that we're doing. I know right now it's with Los Medanos College. I know Lindsay has done outreach with them, and she might be working with other community colleges in the area. But that's one of our board members, they've repeated that goal, that, you know, outreach to the youth in the community, and you know, we want, you know, the workforce out there to be, that we need to build our highways or to plan for our highways or to, you know, kind of in the transportation construction field, those people need to be, we need those resources out there, and it certainly starts before community college, but if we can intercept them at the community college level, we can, you know, when they're kind of deciding what they want to do with their lives, I think that's a important component. So I would say, if you are interested in something like that, contact Lindsay Willis, our external affairs director. It's something she's very interested in doing, and she probably could use some resources.
Thank you.
I just wanted to bring up something. I think we all got this on our tables tonight, the Redefining Mobility Summit. And I just want to say I attended it last year, and it was absolutely excellent, and I made some very good connections. So I'm recommending it to all of you. If you haven't considered it, to please consider it. And nobody paid me to do this promotion. I just saw it, and I'm planning on attending again this year.
That's great to hear. I was actually going to speak on that, on item 4, but thank you. You did more marketing than I could do. Yes, so our Redefining Mobility Summit is March 30th. Sorry, I don't have the flyer in front of me. And it is a big event. It has been in Concord the first 2 years. This year it's heading down the 680 corridor to San Ramon in the Roundhouse, I think they call it, at Bishop Ranch, the big round building surrounded by water. So you're certainly invited. While I was hoping it would be free to everybody, they've put a minimum $50 rate for all. They extended that to you guys, and I think to students as well. So I wish I could say it's free, but it is $50. That's discounted from the $350 that we're charging to the general public. It's all day. There's going to be, talks by our director, Randy Iwasaki, but a lot of other people in local, regional government, technology, innovation. Silicon Valley folks are going to be there. And since we haven't got you out to Gomentum Station yet, and actually I don't even know if you can go out there right now because Mount Diablo Creek is over its banks, the self-driving shuttle, the Easy Mile shuttle will be there, taking folks for a ride around the campus. There's going to be other autonomous vehicles that we haven't even seen before. Supposedly there's going to be like an autonomous shopping cart that will help you when you're at the store. So things that we haven't maybe even thought of are going to be wandering around Bishop Ranch that day for all you to see and test out. So we definitely encourage you, and I think the flyers we put in front of you at the dais have Lindsay's contact information. So if you want to talk to her about anything, you can certainly contact her. I didn't want to broadcast her number over the loudspeaker. Or if you just want to register yourself, you can go to the website and use the promo code that's on the flyer there. So we encourage you to attend. But if you have any questions, you can certainly contact myself. But Lindsay is in charge of the event, so she's a good person to contact. And she had told me you guys could contact her directly.
Is this something that our local municipalities can pay for? Or does this have to come out of personal funds?
Oh, I would encourage your local your local city who you're representing tonight to sponsor you. I think that's a great idea.
Any more questions? Comments? Member or staff comments? We had staff correspondence, news clippings.
I have a comment.
I do as well.
I don't know if any of you have seen it, but it's traveling up and down. The diesel train is going back and forth. It's really neat. I saw it coming and going today, and it's very exciting. Are we going to get a ride on it? I mean, it's.
They did have a tour of it. Not a ride.
Yeah, she's talking about the eBART extension out
Yes.
to Hillcrest Avenue in
Yeah.
Antioch. I will see if there are any opportunities for tours.
Great.
But yes, they're out there testing. I believe they need a year of testing, and I don't want to say they'll start in 2017 because they're scheduled to start in 2018, but you never know.
Okay, great. Thank you.
It is beautiful. Any idea what the date is for them to go into operation, or just?
I think they have early 2018 as their targeted opening date, spring. So anything sooner would be gravy.
They look great running.
I did take a tour, and they were open for tour. Maybe y'all have done a tour, but they are beautiful inside. They're very spacious, extremely comfortable, and I'm just waiting to see how they smell when they run for diesel. I don't know. They say it's super clean diesel, but they are gorgeous trains, and it'll be a pleasure to ride them. I think.
So, Mr. Chair, my comment is on our packets. I got my packet on yesterday, so it looked like we backslid a little bit. I think last year we talked about getting our packets a little early so we would have enough time to really go through them.
You're right. I got mine yesterday.
So I want to make sure.
It was available online, but yes, I got mine in the mail yesterday.
Yeah, I do apologize for that. We didn't get the packet out till last Friday, so with the holiday, that probably delayed things. And we also didn't have the Oakley checklist all finally submitted till Thursday. So what we are planning on doing is, as checklists come in, staff reviews them, works with the city to get them in shape, that we will send them out to you individually as checklists come in, so you don't have to wait till the agenda packet comes out. But our goal is to get it out a week ahead of time, and we'll hopefully be able to maintain that in the future. I apologize for the situation this week.
You are duly chastised. That kind of takes care of future agenda items. Are there any future agenda items other than taking a tour of the Gomenham Station and redefining mobility?
I have one that will be coming up probably this summer, and that will be the new environmental study, which will include a new traffic study on the Naval Weapons Station.
Oh, cool.
And so I wasn't too happy with the last traffic study, so I'm hoping that it's going to improve, get a little more detail. Lennar will be doing it, and I can't remember the contractor's name that's going to do it, but he's been hired, and he's going to start the environmental study. And I would really appreciate you having some comments on it when the draft comes out.
If I get a draft,
Yeah,
I'll look at it.
don't worry, I'll bring them all here.
Cool. Well, that just about wraps it up. Are there any other issues? This meeting is adjourned.